The Last Patrol, Chapter 11, Billy. As the sun began to set over the baseball field, the blue of the sky deepened on top of a growing layer of orange glow. Fortunately, the field had lights. Chief Quartermaster DeRusso, a good old boy from way down in Cajun country, saunters towards the pitcher's mound, scribbling on a notepad in his hand. All right, first game between officers and chiefs, then firemen against seamen, then torpedomen against electricians, then cooks against auxiliary men. There'll be 5 inning games. What the hell do you just say? Carps Francis Bacon, whose balding head makes him look 20 years his age. Don't worry about it, says Ezekiel Bodenheimer, a quick-witted Jew from Utah. First games between officers and chiefs, 5 inning games. The games begin. The first batter to step to the plate is Senior Chief Akachita, the chief of the boat. Tall, big-boned, and thickly muscled, he's an imposing figure, near intimidating. A full-blooded American Indian, his skin is deeply tanned and with a leathery look. Faint traces of gray highlight his tightly cropped jet-black hair. Prominent cheekbones and a strong nose like Tecumseh set off sharp angles in his face. Akachita takes the first pitch that hits a sharp grounder down the third base line. O'Kane, playing third base, twists fast, lunges toward the baseline, backhands the ball, and then rotates on his left foot as he whips a sidearm throw toward first. The throw is on target, and the first baseman catches it with a resounding thump, but is a second late. Batter is safe. Way to go, Senior Chief, yells Ezekiel Bodenheimer, an intelligent Jewish kid from Salt Lake City, though he's more like a ruffian from the bad side of town. The old geezer still got legs, shouts a follically challenged Francis Bacon. Bodenheimer calls over to O'Kane. No disrespect, Cam, but you just got beat by an old codger. Laughter erupts. O'Kane pounds his fist into his mitt, spits on the ground, then mutters under his breath, yeah, one time. The second batter takes a couple of pitches and hits a looping line drive down the right field line for a single, advancing Akachita to third. Runners are at first and third. Third batter steps up. He swings at the first pitch. Crack! A smoking line drive is ripped down the third base line, just foul. As the next pitch floats in, the batter rotates his stance clockwise and hits a pop-up to short right field toward Mike, the weapons officer, whose head is curiously shaped like an egg. At first, Mike backs up, then turns, misjudges the ball, tries to change directions, gets disorientated, stumbles over himself, and falls on his ass. The second baseman is running into the outfield and appears to have a play in the ball. Then, from deep in center field, in races Joshua Daniels. He's moving fast. He dives and makes a laid-out grab just before landing to slide on his belly. Still sliding in a single motion, he leaps off the ground while rotating his body, plants his feet, and fires the ball like a laser towards home. The throw was cut off by the pitcher as a runner at third base holds. Yes, yells Paul, pounding his fist into the pocket of his mitt. I knew you had it in you. Yeah, way to go, Josh, says Steve with a smile as he walks back to the pitcher's mound. Heaven knows why you doubt yourself so much. Steve glances over at Mike, picking himself off the ground. Careful, Mike. There's no king's horses around here. Mike turns to Steve and crunches his face in an annoyed, puzzled look. Standing atop the pitcher's mound, Steve observes Petty Officer First Class Samuel Burke striding toward the plate. Burke's an impressive figure, powerful, jutting chin, forming a sloped face, thick-strided muscles, yet packed gracefully along an athletic frame. Though his large, sinewy muscles look bulky, he moves with the supple fluidity of a leopard. He is an athlete, a thoroughbred. Petty Officer Burke, yells Steve. Hold it right there. What do you think you're doing? Since when were you promoted chief? Well, sir, says Burke in his humdrum monotone. Senior Chief Akachita said, as chief of the boat, he had the authority to give battlefield promotions, and he said softball was just as much a battlefield as any, especially when playing against the officers. Oh, so you think we're the enemy? Only from time to time, sir, says Burke in a deadpan manner. With his hands on his hip, feigning indignation, Steve adds, Listen, Burke, the last time we had a round-robin tournament, you played every single game. Whatever team you played on won. We all know the score. We all know how this is going to play out. And we're not going to let you be everyone's blue chip again, because then what's the point of having a tournament anyway? To this, Burke can only shrug. Steve lifts his brow, recognizing Burke's shrug as a concession, so he goes in for the coup de grace. Besides, it's more than a bit unbecoming for you to prostitute your skills so shamelessly. With his eyes locked on Burke, Steve concludes with a wry smile and a tilt of his head, as if to add an exclamation mark for emphasis. Burke backs down and heads toward the bench, dragging the bat behind him. Over his shoulder, he mumbles, I'm not prostituting, sir, just trying to help out any way I can. Akachita, the big man, leaps from the bench and rushes onto the field. Holding his arms wide like an umpire calling a base runner safe, he shouts, Wait a minute. Let's take this to the higher authority. What do you say, Captain? Batter up, responds O'Kane. We're going to beat you even with Burke. It's not going to matter. Burke returns to the plate and swings at the first pitch. Crack! The sound echoes resonant as the ball explodes off the sweet spot of the bat. O'Kane lifts his head and twists around, watching the ball soar into the air as if defying gravity. It floats effortlessly over the outfield fence, driving in 3 runs. Under his breath, he mutters, or maybe not. He shakes his head, lips pressed together in a thin, admiring smile. I know there's a tactical lesson in this somewhere. Behind the backstop stands torpedoman Jeremiah Billy Goat. He's a slender man of average height, utterly unremarkable except for his obvious frailty. As Burke rounds the bases, Billy claps and cheers. Hooray, Sammy! Hooray, Sammy! You're an animal, shouts Aristotle. Way to go, Tarzan, jokes Bodenheimer, alternately pounding his fists on his chest, mimicking the jungle man. Bacon turns to his buddy, Bodenheimer. Hey, if he's Tarzan, you're a cheetah. Bodenheimer shakes his head. No, I don't think so. You're the knuckle dragger, you bald-headed Neanderthal. Shut up, Dead Sea Boy. Hey, says Bodenheimer, flipping the back of his hand on Bacon's shoulder. I'm no pillar of salt. You are. Bacon scrunches his cheeks, narrowing his eyes. What? Never mind, Eaglehead. Why don't you just say bald? It's easier. I know, grins Bodenheimer. But where's the fun in that? Rounding second base, Burke approaches the shortstop, Lieutenant Luke Abtrünniger, the engineering officer. As Burke jogs past, Luke mutters under his breath, Chief, my ass. Burke smiles and continues toward third base, approaching O'Kane. Sorry, Captain. Yeah. O'Kane slaps the coach's pat on Burke's back as he jogs past. Before the side is retired and the Chiefs go on to score 4 more runs, the officers walk out the field to take their turn at bat. O'Kane takes a seat on the bench. Paul sits down beside him. Brutal inning, says Paul. Could be we're finally the throne. First inning, dismisses O'Kane. But it's about time someone stepped up. It's what I've been waiting for. Paul glances at O'Kane and confides, Say, that Burke's really something, huh? He's Tarzan, all right. I mean the size, speed, power, the coordination, a physical specimen. O'Kane nods. No doubt, Burke is something special. Shifting focus, he adds, Hey, did you see the way Torpedoman Goat was cheering him on? Uh-huh. They're becoming quite a pair. Speaking of Torpedoman Goat, I've been meaning to talk to you about him. In regards to, it's come to my attention he could be a problem. Let me guess, from Mike. O'Kane suppresses a sardonic chuckle. Yes, sir. He tells me that Goat makes a lot of mistakes. Says Goat could be a liability, or even jeopardize an attack, or worse. He could put us all at risk, Skipper. Not the time and place for this, thinks O'Kane. He then figures, with less than 2 days before departure, better to get it hashed out now. Torpedoman Goat's been with us for what? 3 war patrols? And all that time, has he jeopardized anything? Has he put us at risk? Well, no, but he's got a lot of people correcting his mistakes. There's a lot of people looking out for him. Out the corner of his eye, O'Kane sees Steve approach. Excuse me, Skipper. Steve offers a bat to O'Kane. You want to take a turn at bat? Nah, Steve, you go ahead. Paul and I will bat last in the order. All right, I guess it's batter up for me. Steve saunters toward the plate, gripping the bat by the knob, letting it swing like a pendulum. He takes his stance in the batter's box and calls out to the Chiefs. Hey, stand by the weep, gentlemen. Weep, fires back Chief Cromwell, the chief mechanic. What do you mean? Weep from laughter? That's right, Lieutenant, laughs Sakachita, the big Native American. You don't have to prove to us you got a sense of humor. We all know you're a funny guy. Right, says Steve as he takes a few slow, measured half swings to prime for the pitch. O'Kane overhears the banter, chuckles, and returns on topic. So, Paul, has Seaman Goat been a liability? Not yet, sir, but he's definitely a potential liability. He's a liability waiting to happen. But he hasn't yet. Just a matter of time, Skipper. Think so? Absolutely. Listen, Paul, Goat may very well be, as you say, a liability waiting to happen. But the fact of the matter is, he's trying twice as hard as anyone. People see that, and they respect it. It's part of why so many people are looking out for him. True, but I don't see your point, Captain. He's not cutting it, and that's the bottom line. The problem with you is you're all wrapped up in performance and ability. Why? Because that's who you are. You've got gobs of ability, and your performance is unparalleled. But there's more to it than just ability and performance. Goat is something special. I still don't follow you, Skipper. I know you don't. Look, I don't see Goat as a liability at all. In fact, I think he may be one of our greatest assets. Now you've really lost me, Cam. O'Kane rubs his chin, knowing he has to find a different angle. You say everyone's looking out for Goat, that everyone's correcting his mistakes. Don't you see what's happening? They're rallying around him. In a way, he's pulling them together. Goat is indeed something special. And more than that, he's got a way of making everyone around him want to be a better person. You see, it's not just what he does, it's more who he is. Well, okay, lifts a hand. Hold on, Paul. Just look at Goat for a minute. There's not much there. Goat's at least a little less than average in just about every way. He's frail, he stutters, wears thick glasses, he's forgetful. He looks the type of kid that was bullied just about every day in school, but he had it pretty rough growing up. Now, with all that, there ought to be a bitterness, a meanness, but there's not a trace of that in him. He's the opposite. He's clean. Don't you see? There's an innocence there. Okay, and waits for a response, but gets none. I wish I had what Goat has, but I don't. There's too much Esau in me. Esau? Yeah, Esau, the fleshly nature. That's my fight. Why? Because God loved Jacob, but Esau he hated. Paul stares intently, but remains silent. Sensing that Paul needs more convincing, O'Kane turns fully towards him. You know, every time I run across Goat, he smiles at me this smile of pure, unaffected gladness. I don't know where it comes from. He's not looking to kiss my ass, that's for sure. There's just a simple, pure goodness about him. And tell you what, he makes me want to be a better person. So, I don't give a damn what his individualities are, or lack thereof. He draws the best out of everyone around him, and he's pulling people together. And what is Tang? Tang is not the boat, Tang's a team. The team is the backbone of our effectiveness. That's the bottom line, Paul. Goat's far more valuable than you think. Well, there's another thing, Captain. Everyone's calling him Billy now, including some of the officers. Let me guess, Steve, right? Yep. And now Dina started. O'Kane chuckles. Those two. Figures. Who knows? Maybe I'll start calling him Billy. Paul looks down and grunts. Consternation stretch across his face. Oh, looks like I'm up to bat. O'Kane stands, grabs two bats, compares them, drops one, and heads to the batter's box. He strides toward the plate, takes a warm-up swing, twists back and says over his shoulder, "See? We batted through the order. Still a lot of game left, Paul." He smiles. Chapter 12, Daffodils. Later that evening, sailors from Tang gathered in a crowded nightclub called the Black Cat. Inside the dance joint, the smoky haze that floats in the air softens the glittering lights. The center of the club is dominated by a parquet dance floor. Surrounding the dance floor on three sides are elevated dining areas, each lined with cloth-covered tables and enclosed by sturdy brass handrails. This makes the glossy hardwood the central focal point, like a Shakespearean stage. Behind the dance floor is a seven-member band wearing identical white zoot suits. Jazz music, loud and fast, emanates from the band, and the crowd of the couples dance a swing. With its breakneck pace of hops and twirls, flips and spins, lifts and throws, and with a flurry of flailing arms and flying legs, the dance is clearly only for the young and athletic. For the old, just watching it is enough to be exhausting. Off to a quieter corner of the club, lady sits at a table surrounded by three pretty women, like a king presiding over his court. They fuss and fawn over him, competing for his attention. From across the club, a beautiful, sultry girl in a long flowing dress glides her way towards Lady. In her hand she holds a daffodil, a flower within an inner heart, like a flower within a flower. She walks up to Lady, gives him the daffodil, then with practiced feminine allure, she offers her hand and states in a way that is half question, half command, "Dance with me." With excessive panache, like a silent picture movie star, Lady lifts the daffodil to his nose and sniffs it in her heart. He sets it down, stands, takes her by the hand, sweeps her to the dance floor. Like jealous hens, the three remaining women glare at the departing couple. Envy and spite spill over, and with sneers they grumble little digs at the newcomer. Hussy, floozy, slut. Lady leaves the girl in the middle of the dance floor, walks over to the band conductor, slips him some cash, and whispers in his ear. The conductor changes to a slow, sultry tune, which causes grumbling couples to dissipate from the dance floor like beads of water that roll off the hood of a just-waxed car. The girl in the long, lovely dress is left standing alone in the center of the floor, as if the waters had parted. Lady glides across the floor, back to the girl, and with a firm, steady hand, leads her through the graceful swirls and turns of a rumba. Tang sailors wolf whistle and cheer. "Cut a lug, Rady," yells Marchione. "Hey, lady, you hoofer," hollers Bodenheimer. "He means dead hoofer," howls Bacon. Aristotle cups his hands around his mouth like a bullhorn. "Save some for the rest of mankind, lady." "Lady, if your mother could only see you now," yells Bodenheimer. "I thought you were my mother," Lady retorts. "I could be, you know, if only I were that ugly." Laughter erupts. Lady grins, shrugs off the jab, and returns his attention to the girl in the dance. Billy and Burke, along with a few other sailors, sit at another table in a quieter corner. They drink copious amounts of beer, swap tall tales of mythical exploits, and rib each other. Billy, the frail man, pushes away from the table and nearly tumbles backwards. He staggers, stands unsteady, pushes up his thick eyeglasses, then announces, "I'm heading back." It's obvious to Burke that Billy's had too much to drink. Doing his best to not sound patronizing, he says in a subdued voice, "Hey, Billy, want me to tag along?" "What, are you my mother?" jokes Billy. The others point at Burke and laugh. Laden with concern, Burke doesn't even notice their jabs as he watches Billy stagger toward the door. The other sailors immediately resume their frivolity. Not Burke. As Billy exits, his intense glare softens and he sighs. Ah, Billy. Chapter 13, Burke. Samuel Burke, the outstanding athlete, has a brother Timmy, 3 years his younger, or at least he did. Timmy died when Samuel was 10, some things you never forget. They were just two boys on a Saturday morning, excited to go fishing. Old man Baumgartner owned the ranch next door. He had a fishing hold stocked with bass. Baumgartner liked the boys and invited them to fish whenever they wanted. As they always did, they hopped the fence and started the half-mile trek to the pond. The path took them over rolling hills, clothed with tan grass, long like wheat. The midday sun stood oppressively high, and the California air was hot and dry. The wind blew, causing the grass to whisper in a chorus, like the sound of 1,000 women sashaying in evening gowns. As they reached the crest of the last hill, they ought to have seen the pond below. Instead, they saw something else. It was a wild boar, big as a bison, touting 6-inch tusks, jutting up from its jaw, curved like Arabian swords. Squat and powerful, the beast had thick, ropey muscles. Timmy grabbed Samuel's forearm and shook. "I see it," whispered Samuel. The boar turned its head toward the boys. Like a bull, it snouted through its snout. Then it charged, leaping into a sprint, hoofs clopping like a horse, yelping high-pitched squeals like frenzied screams. "Run!" The boys turned and raced to where they came. Samuel was bigger and more athletic, and so he quickly outdistanced his brother. Sammy, wait, please!" Samuel didn't turn back. He couldn't. He just ran. From behind, he heard a thump. It was loud, like the sound of a boxer's fist pounding on a heavy bag. Samuel twisted back to look. Timmy was gored to the kidneys, body arched backwards, face lifted to the sky. But it wasn't that. It was a look on Timmy's face, that utter terror. The boar slashed his head up and to the side. Timmy's body was flung into the air, limbs flopping like a string puppet, with his red baseball cap careening off away from him. Samuel turned back and raced toward the fence. "Sammy! He's eating me! Ah! Ah!" The last Samuel heard was muffled groans. He hopped the fence and didn't stop until he reached home. Some things you never forget, and some things you never live down, no matter what you do. Chapter 14, Brother's Keeper. After leaving the club, Billy lost his way. He staggered down a dark, secluded alley. It's ominous. Billy ought to be afraid, but in his drunkenness, he's oblivious to any danger. Off to the side, two large Samoan men step out from the shadows. "Hey!" shouts one of the locals. Billy's alarmed, but doesn't react. In the same manner, a startled rabbit would freeze, hoping he won't be noticed. Billy continues to stumble along, hoping he'll be left alone. The big men pace next to him, one on either side. Too afraid to look at them, Billy keeps his eyes fixed forward, but he senses their presence, the outline of the shadow, the sound of their footsteps, and the stench of liquor on their breath. The larger of the two reaches out a hand to block Billy's way. "You lost, brother?" "No," he says, keeping his eyes off the assailant. "You and that's not Holly," said the bigger of the two. "You know this area kapu for Holly." Billy doesn't understand, and the confusion fuels more fear. He staggers, shakes his head, and then looks up at the small men. "Oh, God, they're giants." "Hey, you give a stick eye," shouts the other loco as he moves in, threateningly close. Again, Billy doesn't understand, so he doesn't respond, but he can fear the nearness of peril and begins to shake. "We body you, Holly," says the larger man with a chuckle, like a cat playing with a mouse before killing it. Billy shakes his head, trying to act brave. He gets a good glimpse of the man. He's huge, with a big belly and long bedraggled hair. "Give him," demands Big Belly in a deep, threatening tone. What you think?" "Everything," shouts the other Samoan. Billy doesn't respond. The smaller but more athletic of the two gets in Billy's face and waves a fist. "Hey, you want dirty lickings, Holly? Give money." Nose to nose with the small man, Billy sees a long, wide scar running from his temple down to his jaw. It's terrifying, and he tries to run, but his quivering legs won't move. Go! What's wrong?" Scarface grabs Billy, shakes him violently, and then tries to rifle through his pockets. "No!" Struggling to resist, Billy pulls his elbows in tight against his ribs and rides his body. Big Belly, the monstrous man, taps Scarface on the shoulder and cocks his head to the side to motion him out of the way. He then pulls out a knife and lifts it to within a foot of Billy's face. "Hey, Holly, like beef." It freezes Billy. With eyes locked wide open, he stares at the knife, the 6-inch curved blade, the serrated edge like shark's teeth. Lost for what to do or say, he can only shake. "Okay then," says Big Belly. He He nods to Scarface, who grabs Billy, throws him to the ground, and begins to pummel him. On his back, looking up, Billy raises both arms to block the torrent of blows raining down upon him. But it's futile. Each strike explodes with pain, yet he doesn't cry out. He just grunts with each punch and moans. Sitting on Billy's chest, Scarface throws sweeping hooks to land with resounding thumps, tossing Billy's head from side to side, blood drops spraying. Then, from off to the side, there's an intense animal-like sound, like a guttural howl of agony and rage. Both hoodlums turn to look. A body flashes in fast, as if it were a phantom. Big Belly, knife in hand, is hit. With the sound of air being expelled from his lungs, he's swept across the alley. An instant later, there's a loud crash as his large, hapless body is smashed through a garage door, leaving him unconscious. The speed of it was such that it appeared to blur. Then, in a deliberate, unhurried, almost stalking manner, Burke strides toward Scarface, still sitting on top of Billy, with his hands raised in fear. Grabbing the Samoan man by the collar, Burke lifts him off Billy with one arm, then violently tosses him to the side as if discarding a sack of trash. Enough then, Scarface scrambles to his feet and runs away, abandoning his cohort. Turning back to Billy, Timmy's brother moves over and helps him to his feet. He looks Billy up and down and fixates upon two trails of blood, one running down from his nose and the other from the corner of his mouth. He grimaces, lips tight, eyes squinted, and pulls a white handkerchief from his pocket and hands it to Billy. Billy takes it, and while studying Burke's expression, it is bad, isn't it, Sam? Burke shakes his head and looks aside. Nah, Billy, you look good. Just got to tidy up a little bit. He then turns back towards Billy with a smile and a laugh. Sounds forced. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. He pats Billy on the back and jokes. Goodness sake, Billy, I always knew you were sloppy, but this takes the cake. They then walk back to the ship without a word. Despite desperate to thank Burke, Billy opens his mouth, but, still shaken, he can't get it out. As minutes pass, tension rises within Billy like an electric charge building within a capacitor. Finally, he jerks around towards Burke. Hey! Yeah, Billy? Before he can finish, Burke casually cuts in. It's nothing, Billy. Forget about it. They continue to walk on, and after a while, Billy notices something protruding from Burke's side. Sam! Burke exhales. Ugh. What now, Billy? He looks down to where Billy's pointing, and then his eyes narrow with a curious expression. Oh, what do you know about that? He then pulls a thug's knife from out of his side. Urgh. He looks at the blade and laughs. Just a flesh wound, Billy. But I better see the pharmacist mate, get it stitched. Maybe a tetanus shot, too. He then casually tosses the knife into the pierside water, and the two continue to stroll back to Tang. Billy tugs on Burke's shirt sleeve. Evidence. Burke waves a dismissive hand. Billy stares at Burke's blood-soaked side. One day, I'll look out for you, Sam. I know you will, Billy. Burke puts an arm around Billy's shoulder and pulls him in close. Hey! Billy recoils away from Burke's bloody shirt pressed against his side. Oh, sorry, Billy. That's okay, Sam. Billy smiles.